everybody, and welcome to Living Well with Liv Hill. On today's podcast, we are going to be talking with Brittany Burris. Brittany has been a client with Living Well for over a year now, and she has had just a great experience, a lot of aha moments, and just so much to share. So, Brittany, welcome to today's podcast.
Hi, thanks so much for having me on. I'm super excited to just get to be on here and share our journey together and just the different things that have impacted my life and in turn my family's life.
All right, well, let's jump right in. So let's kind of rewind all the way back to the beginning when you started coaching. Of course, we'll let the audience know, the listeners know that we are friends. So that made it a little easy to jump right in together. We just kind of hit the ground running. But kind of talk about what drew you into coaching. I remember you made the first phone call and you were saying, okay, today's the day. And I think it was close, was it January 1st or at the end of December? So just talk a little bit about
December 27th.
Okay.
I've got it calendared.
So talk about what drew you into coaching.
Yeah, so I had been watching coaching from afar for quite a while, and I was just really encouraged about all of the other individuals that I had seen have some really great success. And I had kind of like a pivotal moment that I feel like that just really resonated with me, because me and my family, we took a trip to Disney back in October of 2022. And I just remember having a really hard time just with myself. Like, we had a wonderful trip, a wonderful vacation, just had a blessing to be able to go. But I just remember, like, I had to go out and I bought like some clothing that was a lot bigger than I had anticipated, and that was really sad for me. I didn't really want to do that, but at the same time, I was like, I want to be comfortable, and you go on vacation, you get it's an opportunity to go and get something for yourself.
Yeah.
So
I just remember place on earth, right?
Yeah, because you're going to the happiest place on earth, and so I had, so I did that, and I was like, okay, I'll move past that. I was like, I have just had a baby about a year and a half ago, so my daughter was about a year and a half at that time, and or right around one, not quite a year and a half. So I had gave myself a lot of grace, but I just really struggled to get some of that baby weight off. But I was like, no, it's okay. So I had been watching from afar, and I had almost like sent several messages like via text to be like, hey, I really want to learn more, I want to get started. But then I would just recluse and be like, no, I can do this on my own. Right. And would just kind of fall back into the same typical mindset of like, no, I can do this. I've done things like this before perhaps, and I can just do it on my own. So we went on our trip, and it was great. But I remember a couple of times whenever we would take pictures, and then looking back on it, like I would just be like, I could see myself hiding my kids in front of myself. Or I just remember like, this was a great time, but I'm not excited with the way I personally felt. So things like that. And then we got back from vacation, and then it was Thanksgiving, and then from Thanksgiving, then it's Christmas. And I remember talking with my husband, who's such a great supporter of me, and I just remember telling him, I was like, I think I want to this time just really go for it, and I'm going to talk with Liv. And he said, well, just do it. And I said, okay, I'll do it. Okay. So like, here goes the message, like long text message, and I was like, okay, I'm doing it. So had the phone call on December 27th, and I'm pretty sure there was like a post that you had did that was about like not waiting for the new year, just like start now, like you don't have to wait. And like that was like okay, we're doing this. And I knew like whenever we did it that it was going to be a change, and I was ready for change, but it was also very unnerving. Yeah. But because I knew that there would be things that I would have to do. Like, it wasn't just going to be, okay, here's this food, eat this, and then voila,
Yeah.
results,
I thought
because
that's
those
what I
are,
said. That's
yeah,
it.
woohoo! Like those were the things that I had done in the past,
Yeah.
and it had worked. But as
Yeah.
I've gotten older, like I've just realized I cannot do that anymore. It's not sustainable,
Yeah.
and so I just knew like that it was going to be time. So that's really what led me into coaching, was just I knew I needed a change and not a quick fix.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I had experienced prior with other types of weight loss journeys. I had done different apps that really restricted calories. And I can remember thinking back on that, like on how miserable I
Yeah.
was. And I didn't realize how miserable I was until later on in thinking that, because I was like, wow, like I didn't eat anything. No wonder I was cranky. No wonder my
Mm.
body was like angry at me.
Yeah.
And then I gained weight back.
Yeah.
And then I would try something else. I tried, not throwing off on Weight Watchers, but like I
Yeah.
tried Weight Watchers several times, had some success with it, and then, oh, have a baby, tried it again. I'm like, oh, that doesn't work anymore.
Yeah. Get working.
So it just, nothing was sustainable, and I was just ready for something that would actually be sustainable for me. So,
Something you could do long term.
yeah, I needed
Yeah.
something that was going to be long term. And I just thought, like, with all the success stories that I had seen,
Yeah.
and then, of course, you know, the way you live your life, I was like, okay, I know that this can work for me. And if I see this other person do it, then I know that I can do it.
Yeah.
So that's really what drew me in initially to coaching. And it's the best decision I've made.
Yay! Well, you've done so well, and I remember that phone call. I remember you calling me, and I remember too going back before you called me. We were at a birthday party together, and you were saying, I think they're making these certain brand of athletic skirts a little smaller.
Yes.
I'm like,
Yes.
maybe, of course, I'm just like, yeah, that sounds good, and you're like, maybe they're making them smaller. And I'm like, well, they could be, but also, maybe this, but it's hard, you have to be in that mind frame to say, okay, I'm willing to make some changes in what I'm doing. And then also, I love what you say about it is not the quickest process. However, it's a process that if you stay with it, it ends up being quicker in the long run because you have this continual loss and you don't have that weight rebound. So a lot of people think like, oh, this is going to be a huge, long, drawn out process. It's longer because it's not quick. But at the end of the day, it ends up kind of like tortoise in the hare. Like you end up way far ahead and have knowledge at the end.
Yeah, and I love that. The knowledge portion, I think, is what makes me so excited, because not only is it sustainable, but I have so much knowledge like to go along with it. So then I don't feel so unnerved like whenever I come to a vacation. Like I feel
Yeah.
so much freedom to be able to enjoy vacation, enjoy the way I feel on vacation, and then be able to pick up all those pieces and just move right along without feeling guilt or without feeling like I've had a cheat day. And I'm super encouraged that I've kind of moved past that like cheat day mindset, because I think that's just so ingrained into us sometimes from different diets that we've done or different experiences that we've had. And I love just not having to feel like, oh, this is my cheat meal. I'm like, no, this is just a good time that I'm having with my family. I'm going to enjoy it. And then I'm going to make some other choices that are maybe a little less in fat or higher in protein a little bit later on, and just move right along. And it works like so much. It works. And it just is it's so very freeing, and it's an enjoyable feeling.
Yeah, it's so freeing to be able to say, just exactly what you said. It's not a cheat meal. It's not a cheat day. It's like, we're going on vacation today and I'm going to eat, a popsicle or an ice cream with my kids. And then at dinner, I'm going to make a choice that lines up more with my goals. And then we're just going to move on and have, and keep going,
Yeah.
And I think that was some of your early ahas too that we started working on, because I also remember that since you did start in December, that it was like 2 weeks into January, you started getting all this mail. Do you remember getting the flyers?
Yes.
That were advertising all of the weight loss, everything. And I remember, I'll let you tell the story a little bit more in detail, but I remember you sending me a picture and saying, these are not tempting me anymore, and you were just throwing them in the trash.
Yes, I remember that. I'm glad you brought that up, because those are some of the things that, like, I think it was some, like, I don't know, the ones they advertise on TV quite a bit and all that you see, and then things that you get in your email a lot. But yeah, I was like, I remember those things would be so alluring to me. And I remember like spending so much time previously, like looking those up, seeing like how much they would cost. And then I was like, even though it was so early on, I was like, that's just it's not even worth my time to even look that way. And I remember just tearing them up, throwing them in the trash. And I was like, that's a great feeling.
Yeah.
That's a really great feeling. And then I also remember like, so my birthday being in January, I had remembered, like I planned out like my whole entire week of like my meal. And like on my birthday, I was like, I still had a very healthy meal. I can even remember the meal. It was a turkey burger with avocado. It was I think it was a gluten-free bun. And I like that anyway. That wasn't like a have to thing. I was just enjoyment. I had sweet potato fries. Like I remember like the meal very, very perfectly because it was a big deal to me. And I wanted to make sure I enjoyed exactly what I was going to have and didn't feel like I was missing out on anything. But I do remember being like, can I have cake? And you were like, yes, please have your cake. It's one day, have your cake. And I was like, okay, I can have cake. It's all right. Okay, it's okay. And I remember that, and it was so great because I had that meal. It was wonderful, and I actually stayed within my macros with it. I had my piece of cake, and we moved on. And it was so great. And I was like, okay. And then I remember now this year, like with my birthday, I honestly can't even tell you what I did for my birthday this year. I don't remember. It was great, whatever it was. And I'm pretty sure we were snowed in. I made my own cake this year is what I did. And it was still lovely and it was still great. And I didn't feel, like I was cheating anything or guilt with anything. I was just like, okay. But it's just so very nice to have those ahas that, I can still literally have my cake and eat it too and just roll on with life. It's wonderful.
And what was like your first January birthday like was like, I'm not sure, I don't know, I'm just double checking everything, because weight was going down. Like we were seeing your weight like trending down already. And so, and then to just a year later, which is really a short amount of time when you think about it, especially like I know people listen to this podcast at different times, but it's like March and it seems like it was just Christmas,
Yeah.
But, a year later, you're saying it wasn't even a thought process of yours to think, can I have cake? Like that wasn't even on your radar as an issue item or is this okay? And it's become more natural where you're like, of course I can have cake, and so that's just become your mantra of learning that balance.
Yeah, that, and like I've learned that it doesn't have to be complicated. Like it can be super simple. It doesn't like the meals don't have to be elaborate. They don't have to take forever in the kitchen. It can be as simple as like chicken and some rice and some veggies and roll on with the day. So that part is just absolutely wonderful. And just knowing, if I have that piece of cake or if I have the ice cream with my kids or we go out to Brewster's for a fun little night, that's totally okay. Like I don't have to get the low calorie unsweetened, no flavored anything just because like I can get the double fudge chocolate whatever I want to and just do better the next day, and it's really, really great. So that would be one of the ahas. My other aha that I've got is that it's consistency. So I think they all go hand in hand. So like I say, I feel like I do pretty well with like my meal prepping and stuff. It's something I've always had a good habit on. So creating just a very consistent habit with prepping and then knowing what to expect. Those things really help me be able to plan my week out and then pivot where I need to. So that way I'm not tempted by some of the other things. Like, and even like with work, like if there's different cakes brought in or whatever, like I'm just kind of like, I know that's not going to be, satiating for me. So I'm not going to eat that. I'm going to eat what I've brought
Yeah.
because, for one, I'm going to enjoy it. It's going to make my body feel better.
Yeah.
And then, if later on in the week, sure, if I want something like that, that's fine. But I just have those choices. And it's
Yeah.
easier for me to see that on the big picture whenever
Mm-hmm.
I've got things prepped out and planned out. And that consistency is just so, so vital for me. And I think for others as well. And sometimes we don't realize that those small changes,
Mm-hmm.
they build up into other types of habits, and then
Yeah.
those habits become lifestyle changes. And
Absolutely.
I think those like ahas are like, it's a lifestyle. It's not a get in and get out. It's not a get in, quick fix. I've lost XYZ weight and now I'm going back to doing everything else the exact same way. So it's literally it's a lifestyle, it's a mindset change, all of those things working
Yeah.
together to be able to create the life that you want. And some of those things I didn't actually realize walking into
Yeah.
coaching. And because my initial was like, oh, I want to lose weight. I want to get back to this amount. And that's where I want to be. I didn't really consider everything else that goes into it because I've never done it before. I've always done it my own way. That obviously didn't work. Or it didn't work and stay. It didn't
Yeah.
stick. So it's just so wonderful to know, like, okay, this is actually truly how it works. It's
Yeah.
the consistency, it's the habits, and then it's the lifestyle change that comes with time.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, a year seems like a long time, but in the grand scheme of things, like, it's not. It's such a short amount of time.
Yeah.
And so anybody out there, like, if you're looking for a get in and get out quick, like, you have to stay in it for the long haul.
Yeah.
You got to learn how to do it.
You got to
Do it
learn how
right.
to do it. And I will speak on myself for a little bit. I lost my weight. And then after I changed those things, it's like I knew how to do it, And so what you're saying, like the education and the lifestyle change, it's like once you make those changes, you learn how to do it. Yeah, you may invest a year or two up front, but at the end of that, if you're spending a year or two and then you've got 30, 40 years of freedom and flexibility, that's a beautiful thing. I'm 15 years in and like no regrets from like nose down for 2 years.
Yeah.
The best thing ever because I've had 2 kids and, I won't get into all that, but it's like you weigh that out and you're like, oh yeah, I can throw diet ads away and have emails and feel great.
Yeah.
30
Yeah.
years.
And it's so nice too, like whenever, even if you're just like in regular conversation with somebody and they're like, oh yeah, well today's my cheat day, or oh, you know what, somebody told me I can't have a banana or I can't eat an apple. And I'm like, why can't you have a banana or an apple? Like, oh, because it's so full of this kind of sugar. But I was like, but you're eating a piece of cake right now, but you're saying that's better. You'd rather eat the cake than eat the banana, but the banana's going to be bitter. So it's just all the different things, and it's like sometimes you just don't realize it.
Yeah.
And like, not throwing off on anybody, but it's just really great to know and have that knowledge to be able to create those life changes. Because I also remember, like, coming to you, I was drinking a pot of coffee, and I still drink my coffee. Of course, in my Mickey cup.
Yeah,
Still drink my coffee, but it's not a pot anymore. I've scaled it back some. I remember some still drink it. I remember having breakfast was super difficult for me, and I've learned that, like, for me, like, I require breakfast. It can still be difficult sometimes, but like just oatmeal and a Chobani Complete is magic. And that helps so much. And then just setting boundaries between like work and home and life, just having all those things, mindfulness, all of that, it just works together to be able to best fuel my life. And it's just so very wonderful to have all of that working together.
I agree with that. And what you're saying too, Brittany, about how we did change a lot of things, like your mindset. But when we walked into things, it wasn't like, okay, we're going to just rip the Band-Aid off and we're going to go in and we are changing everything. We're tearing the walls down. It was a very gradual process. And I would say a lot of it you didn't realize was happening until you looked back like 3 months later. And I would say, look, we've come from A to, D. And you're like, oh, we did. We came from A to D, but you were just doing the everyday consistency things. And then through that process, you were able to do lifestyle and mindset changes that weren't always super obvious, or that we weren't really like digging down deep and focusing on it. It was just you showing up and staying consistent.
Yeah. It's a wonderful thing.
One thing too we'll talk about your daily life and kind of what your days look like. And you kind of hit on this. We found out that you were really leaning towards being underfed. And so you hit on like how breakfast was important for you. And we learned that early on about the way that your body responds, is that you needed quite a bit of fuel. I would say from the start of coaching through your first fat loss phase, we almost doubled your caloric intake.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of might be mind blowing to people, like, and it's easy to change your lifestyle and everything when you're eating double the amount of food that you were. And we saw that your body was able to thrive in that. And then we also saw that once we stopped that first fat loss phase and you lost the desired amount of weight for that time, you've been able to maintain since then before going into a second fat loss phase. So I'll kind of let you talk about your life and how your body needed that extra food.
Yeah. So, so our lives are very busy. So I'm the director at Peer Academy, and Peer Academy, it's a school for kids with autism and different developmental disabilities, learning styles, and we're located in Knoxville. So we've got a wonderful, wonderful group of students. This year we actually have 36 students, which is a lot considering the dynamic of who we serve. And our teachers are just phenomenal. We have the best group of teachers and staff that I could ever ask for. But with that, you've got some students who have different challenges. My son would be included in that number as well because he's on the spectrum. He's autistic as well. And, he's come so very far. I'm so proud of him. But with the lifestyle that we live, it's just incredibly busy. So, our mornings start very, very early. We're at our school like by 7:15, 7:30 in the morning, including him. So he's feeling that like super early morning as well. So we start very early. We usually are staying pretty late. And then, whenever we leave, it's not like our day is done. We go home, and yes, we have our afternoon and our evening routines, but my job does not end just because I leave that campus. It goes in until sometimes midnight. So I've had to learn how to balance all of that because I've got these wonderful students, but then I also have their families, and then I sometimes have those grandparents, and then I have our team, and then we've got things that are on top of all of those other things. So it can easily build a great amount of stress and a great amount of like, how do I even balance all of these different things? So, I'm constantly on the go, constantly on the move. So for me, it was nothing to like crank out 10,000 steps by 3:00 in the afternoon, just because I'm always moving. I'm always doing something. So with all of that, and then having a 2-year-old now, like a toddler, trying to just balance all of those things, and then we have church in the midst of all of that.
You're a Sunday school teacher at church. You're a Sunday school teacher at church.
We teach the middle school, some of the high schoolers as well. So they're a challenge and a great time. I love all of our students.
Your husband works a swing shift on top of that. So
he's on a rotating schedule. So we are sometimes in passing, like there's like a 2-week stretch that we just literally just pass each other. We see each other for about 15, 20 minutes or so, maybe a little bit longer. And he's either going in on night shift or he's going in on day shift, or then he's got a week where he does days and nights in the same week, and he works 12s. So sometimes he's gone for at least 14 hours of the day, comes home, gets, cleaned up and heads straight to bed. So, there's a lot of, and thankfully we have a wonderful family as well that supports us and helps us put that out there. But, it's just all of that, sometimes you just feel like you're just running just a mill all day long, and it can be very taxing, very tiring. So for me, it was very important that I, learn, for one, how to make everything work for myself, and that being in the nutrition side of it, and then balancing that with like boundaries of like, okay, it's all right for me to say whenever I leave here that I'm no longer XYZ Brittany. I am now a mom. And so all those things, they work together, and those, just that family dynamic and that lifestyle, it just stays incredibly busy. But I think we've learned how to manage that quite well.
Yeah, you guys, and so, when you look at Brittany's life, it's going to, it's, dig into this next venture. But what you found is it actually helped. It was a helper, and it helped make these things easy. And so your go-to, like you said, was a pot of coffee in the morning to get you up and running. Let's get going. We've got a pot of coffee, no breakfast kind of thing. And so in the beginning, I said, okay, we're going to start eating some more food. We're going to start putting some more food in. And that was a trust fall process, like. Yeah,
that was hard.
That was a trust fall, like, Liv, are you sure? But we saw that with you, one, from a weight loss standpoint, from a fat loss standpoint, that your body really just responded immediately to fat loss in that situation. And then also, more importantly, from a physical well-being standpoint, like energy levels started skyrocketing, like the ability to navigate complex, difficult situations, less brain fog started.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I was like, I didn't feel as foggy, like with my brain. Like I could actually, whenever I wake up, yeah, sure, you might still be tired a little bit, but you can start thinking, and thinking clearly is a better way. Thinking clearly. And like I said, I don't have just a ton of time like on my hands, so meal prepping for me is very important. And I would dedicate just a small amount of time just to, and I say small, like maybe 30 minutes or an hour, if that, and it's not even all consecutive. It's more of like different tabs of my brain is open. I'm like, this one's always like, okay, what are we going to do for dinner? And then once I figure that one out, I'm like, okay, now we check that off and keep on moving on. But I do a lot of grocery pickup, or sometimes I'll do a delivery. Pickup is just a lifesaver. So I can add things to my cart, and I've got in my notes section on my phone, I just labeled it, it's called macro meals. And I will put out in there like what I'm having for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, possible snack scenarios in there. And that way I've just got a quick visual. That way I can make my grocery lists pretty easily. And then a lot of things I found, I don't really deviate a lot from a traditional grocery list. I still buy my chicken, I still buy my ground beef, I still buy a lot of the same things, just depends on how I cook it. And I will just spend sometimes Saturday evening, but most of the time Sunday afternoon, once I got our daughter down for a nap. I'll do my meal prepping and take maybe an hour or so, maybe, if that's on a long day.
We're pushing it on an hour.
That's on a long day. Like I'll get breakfast ready, I'll have my lunches ready, and then dinner. A lot of times I won't already have dinner like prepared, but I will know exactly what I'm going to make. So do lots of crock pot meals, or like I'll prepare the meat, and then that way I have it throughout the week to be able to use. So one thing I know that was a huge thing for me is I wanted, we weren't huge like eating outers really, but we did have our fair share of eating out. But we would still make things at home, but I would find that prior I would make a lot of different things. And I wanted my kids to eat kind of what I was eating, so I didn't have to make multiple meals. And already, my husband, since we have such opposite schedules, I will make something usually for him that he takes for his lunches, so his stuff is prepared. And not all the times do those things coordinate together, which is fine because I'm not really doing anything extra on me. It's all within the same things that I'm already prepping, so it's no extra work. But I had wanted my kids, especially my son, to eat a little bit healthier and not just want all the kid food, chips and fries and all the things. So I had remembered there was a certain meal, and I think it had to do with bell peppers. I don't know, because I was trying to branch out a little bit from just some basic veggies, and I had bought some bell peppers, and I remember him saying I had made that, I think, with some ground beef and like some shredded cheese, super easy, and some rice. And I remember him saying, like, this is so good. And I'm pretty sure I had texted you in a couple of different scenarios like that, and just being like, he actually ate it. For one, I'm surprised. Two, he liked it. And it made me feel so good, for one, as a mom, because I'm like, I know what you're putting into your body, and I know that that's good for you. And just for him to tell me, like, that he enjoyed it was a huge win. And he will usually say, like, it's a 10 out of whatever. So now, like, we have a running thing. Like, whenever I make dinner, I'll tell him, I'm like, okay, I'm making this. Is that okay with you? And, you know, even if it's not, I'm still going to make it. But, you know, he'll be like, yeah, sure, whatever. And so I'll make it. I'll make him some of it. And I'll ask him after he's ate it. I'll be okay, what's it a 10 out of? He goes, I'll give it a 9 out of 10. Or I'll give it an 8 out of 10. Or sometimes he's like, oh no, this is like an 11 out of 10. And I'm like, okay, so this is a winner. And he's like, yeah, this is super good. I really like this. And I'm like, okay, that's really great. So I've been able to not only help his body, but expand his palate and make him, or not make him, but help him enjoy some other types of foods that he probably would not have branched out on his own. So, and then my little girl, you know, she's just thrown in there in the mix. Like, she tries it, but, you know, we sometimes end up with mac and cheese, and that's okay.
That's okay. She's learning.
We're learning. We're learning.
And that's the thing. One of the favorite thing about our coaching group and what we do is, and we have this running joke within, you know, the Facebook group, and it's like, the less cook that you have to do on a meal, like the more that we're like,
to win. Like what I had posted yesterday, it was like, it's lavish bread, it's the pita lavish bread, arugula, feta, a Laughing Cow cheese wedge, and then some already cooked chicken breasts from Sam's. Stumbled upon it. It was not like an intentional creation. I was just like, I have these things. I wonder what I can make. And literally just like I toasted up that pita bread and I was like, oh, you know what? I'm going to stuff it with some chicken. Oh, I have some arugula. And we usually don't ever have feta, but I'm going to toss some feta in there. Laughing Cow wedge to give it some creaminess. And then I had some salsa and the Greek yogurt. And I was like, oh, I'll just do that as like a little dip. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is so delicious. And I've put it on repeat. And I was like, it's just like, it literally, I didn't cook a thing. It was like, I put it in the toaster, like to toast the bread and like warmed up the chicken. I'm like, and that's it. Like, it doesn't, I was like, it's just so nice. It doesn't have to be complicated, but it's super, like, it's very healthy, very protein forward. And it's just so good. So I'm like, it's the best win ever to be able to be like, no cook ever.
Yes, I know, like check off the boxes and like no cook, like, but still like super minimal processed ingredients. We don't do like completely no process. I mean, we live in a world where it's everything is processed to some degree, but you know, it's striking that balance between here's some fresh food, here's some, you know, feta, here's some arugula, here's some snap peas on the side, here's some fresh. And then here's some making it easy for me, you know, with the chicken. And it's when you can learn to do those things. And what you were saying about your job and your life being so busy, that it takes off the mental load. So you're able to say, okay, I'm going to meal prep these. I'm going to spend 30 minutes to an hour. But then you're not thinking about food really for the next 5 to 6 days. Like you've got a quick grab and go breakfast, you've got your lunch, you know, you've kind of mapped out dinners. And so then you can focus on other things and it helps take away that food focus and that mental load so you can roll into other things that are more important.
Yeah. And it's also easier too to be able to say, like one thing that we've implemented with our family just to kind of help reduce, really just kind of be more mindful of the eating out, because that's kind of just part of life. Sometimes it is just a quick grab and go and you can't help it, whatever. But just for us, we've just decided to try to cut down any type of takeout to once a week. And that's for any time during the week. Because what we had seen was that we were usually not doing takeout during the week, but it was a lot on the weekends. It was a lot of Saturday. It was on Sunday. And so we were like, you know, let's try to scale that back even more. Because we do have plenty of food already here at home. Let's just use that. So that has helped us a whole lot. And it's easy for me to be able to tell the kids, and they're like, oh, Chick-fil-A, oh, French fries, oh, McDonald's. And I'm like, no, we're not having that. I've already got XYZ prepared at home. Or no, I'm making enchiladas at home, or something like that. And they may be a little bit sad, but I would rather them be a little bit sad and tell them, well, if you want that meal, that's fine, but that's your one meal. That's your one takeout meal for the week. So do you want to waste it on a McDonald's cheeseburger, or do you want to get it from Texas Roadhouse on Sunday after church? And they're like, I want to do it on Texas Roadhouse for Sunday after church. I'm like, okay, that sounds like a deal. So it's just like reallocating the funds, and then where we're choosing to eat at, because I would rather put that money towards a better restaurant than like a McDonald's, and they would too. So those things like that help us as well, and it's easier for me to be able to say, no, we've already got this prepared at home, and usually they take that pretty well, and they're like, all right, well, fine, I guess I'll have, your grilled chicken and, baked potato that you've already made at home, and be happy with it.
I'll have the 8 out of 10 meal tonight.
I'll have an 8 out of 10 instead of a 10 out of 10 for, pizza.
Yeah, pizza, exactly.
Yeah.
But also you found that, and that goes right to it, like you're tired, we're all tired, you're tired at the end of your work day. And so it would be easy to hit the drive-through, and, they're going to be happy, let's just hit the drive-through. But just taking that little time to plan that out saves on your budget, but also saves on, just your mental capacity, because you've already got that planned out. You're not like, well, I don't have anything planned, so let's hit the drive-through, let's do this. And then as you said, and I have kids too, my daughter's the same age as your son, there's a difference in their moods with the type of foods that we feed them. Like we see a big dynamic shift in getting fast food all the time versus let's make some meals at home. And so it really plays into that part as well.
Yeah, especially, we've noticed that with mood, and of course, like with digestion in general. Sometimes whenever we've ate something out, like our son will be like, I don't really feel so great afterwards. And I'm like, well, I can understand that. It's probably from whatever it was that he had just ate. And I'm like, that's sometimes why we choose to, not eat out as much, because it's sometimes more difficult on our bodies. And it's a realization that he comes to understand as well. So it's a very nice thing to be able to just have it all come together.
And it's nice too, the way that you are able to phrase that, because so many people that I talk to come from a generation that say, well, my parents told me to clean on my plate, or my parents, talked to me about cheat meals, or I always saw my mom cheating on her diet, or, just having those food conversations. So I love that dynamic that you're having to say, you might not feel so good, and this is why you might not feel so good. So it's not that you're demonizing the food itself. It's like, this is the response, almost like, well, if you jump out of a swing that's moving really fast, you're gonna hurt yourself. Like, here's a cause and effect. But you're explaining that in just a very neutral way, and I think that's and helpful down the road.
It is, and we've seen that like that conversation even play out. Like, there's a couple of times we'll go through. Not often, but maybe we'll go through a coffee place I will get coffee, or and I'll say, hey, do you want a treat? Do you want a donut, a cake pop, or do you want something else or whatever? Because I am going to get this for myself. Is there something that you would like? And sometimes he'll say, absolutely, I want whatever it is. But then there's also times that he'll say, no, I really don't. I just had this at home for breakfast, or I just ate this and I don't want to feel yucky afterwards. So like he recognizes like, this, whenever I eat this, my body feels yuck afterwards. And he'll say, why does that happen? I'm like, well, it's probably because of this type of donut or something like that with your body. And, it's like, it's okay to have it. You can enjoy it if you want it, but, that's why we don't have it all the time. And, it's just cool to see that play out, for his realization as well.
Yeah.
So that's really nice.
He'll have a good relationship with food, and I know your daughter's younger, so she's not there yet, but she's going to hear the same dialogue, and so this will set her up for a much better relationship with food. Versus cheating all the time. Yes,
for sure.
So let's kind of talk about how this has become more of a lifestyle. So you just went on a vacation. We just talked about this yesterday on your check-in. So how this has become, you're in a fat loss phase now. So you're in a fat loss phase, and
Yeah.
Just for those that are listening, that's kind of how you can't stay in a fat loss phase. I'll just put that out there, that your body cannot constantly stay in a fat loss phase. You've got to take a break. It needs time to upregulate, get some more food. And so you go through times of fat loss and then taking a break and then back into fat loss. Not regain weight during those seasons. It should stay pretty steady. So with that, Brittany, you are in fat loss, and you just are on a 2-week vacation right now. So talk about how it's been so different the second time around in fat loss, just your comprehension and understanding and what you've been able to do.
Yeah, so we're on break right now from Pier, which is super nice. We're on spring break, so we do like a 2-week spring break, and then we decided as a family we're just gonna do lots of day trips. So we went last week. We went out a couple of different places. We went to the zoo, and we went to Gatlinburg, and we went to Pigeon Forge, and we just did lots of going, lots of moving. So we weren't home a whole lot. We stayed at a hotel, had a little water park. It was fantastic. Had a lovely time. But I was so encouraged this time around, especially being in fat loss, and I was super just excited because the last time in fat loss I felt like I had understanding, I had knowledge, but I was still very like afraid because I was like, I don't know, I didn't feel as like I had knowledge, but it was difficult to navigate, and I was like, I don't know, can I do this, can I not do this, what kind of food can I eat? And I was still more of like obsessing over the small things rather than just being like, let the chips fall where they may, everything's gonna be fine in life. So with this time around, like whenever we would go out, like I had things already prepared like at home, because we were home for a lot of it. It's just during the day we were gone. So I had things I already knew on hand that I would have for meals. And then whenever we would go out, you know, we still went out. There was a couple of days there whenever we were gone, and we ate out probably 3 or 4 meals. And I tried to make it as best choices as possible, but at the same time, we just enjoyed it. Like we went to one of the places that had pizza, and we got a spinach artichoke pizza that was fantastic. And then we played some arcade games afterwards, and we went to a water park, and that day was a very, very heavy day, because I think I said like I knocked out about 19,000 steps and like 24 flights of stairs. I was whooped, but I had known also I got to make sure I'm also moving quite a bit this day, because I've ate 2 takeout meals, and they're probably not some of the most ideal things to have. Pizza and cheeseburgers and fries and all that. But, you know, I was like, that's okay. This is life, even though I'm in fat loss. So I felt so much more just free at my choices, and knowing, you know what, it's okay. We're enjoying this time. I'm not going to let this set me back. And sure enough, whenever I got home, I was actually down a pound. So it was just super cool. Like I was like, I still had all the things that I wanted. We enjoyed our time immensely together, but we had lots and lots of activity too. So I just counterbalanced all those things, and it was just so nice, so very nice. And it was just the way I feel now compared to the first fat loss phase is just 10 times better. Like I feel like I can conquer and like, you know, just make sure I'm still thriving myself without being like I'm starved, and without restricting calories. I haven't fallen back into like to old habits or old mindsets. It's just like, you know what, we're doing this and we are going to keep on going. So like, which actually brings me to like a story. I remember early on in my journey, it had to have been like within the springtime or whatever from 2023, there was another member who had posted out in, I think, the Facebook group or like on an Instagram video that her spouse, I think, had surprised her with a Disney vacation. And I remember seeing that, and I had responded, and it was something like she had a great trip, and she came back and she was actually down weight. And I had remember sending a message saying, I cannot wait for this to be me. And I was early on, and And I think back on that, like this time right here, like I think back and I'm like, wow, now it is me. And I was like, oh, it's just so exciting, because I was like, I knew it could be me, but it's just a different feeling, like now that it is me. Like I've, like all that knowledge that she had, I'm like, oh, now I have, and now I see this is actually what it's like to live in like just perfect peace of food and nutrition, and just how it all works together, and not have to worry. And it's just so very nice for that to actually become your lifestyle. And it makes it very, very freeing, and it's a wonderful, wonderful thing.
You've done such a great job. You've done such a great job learning and applying and giving yourself the right amount of grace. Grace, and then push a little bit too.
Yes.
My favorite phrase for myself is pray and hustle and pray.
Yes.
So we do a little bit of both. But you've done such a great job learning, and I always line it up, of course, with like, once you've learned the gospel of Jesus, like you can't forget it. Once you've learned it, your mind will keep it. And so I think it's the same with nutritional science. It's like once you learn it, there's no behind the curtain. Like whenever someone decides that they are ready to spread their wings and fly, it's like, okay, well, you've got everything. You've got all that you need to just keep doing this. And one thing I'll point out too, Brittany, that's so great is that when you go through these different phases of fat loss and maintenance and fat loss again, that it's like you've had the aha that this is not your only time to ever lose fat.
Right.
So any other fad diet or quick diet, it's like, well, I've got to lose it now because this is my only chance. But you've come to the realization that you're in control of that now. It's so in control of that. Like if I want to pursue fat loss down the road, I know that this is not my one shot to get it right and to do
it.
And that's right too.
It is. It's wonderful. It's so wonderful.
Yeah, you've done so great. All right. Well, as we wrap up, I do want you to talk a little bit more about Pure Academy. I know that you are the director there. It is here in Knoxville where we live, and just do such a tremendous job. I think you had the honor to come out and talk to your staff about nutrition. And so just give us a little bit more about Pure Academy, where they can find you online if someone is interested in learning more.
Yeah, so we're private school, we're nonprofit, and we are here in Knoxville. We just purchased a beautiful building. It's we are so proud of it. It's 10,500 square feet. Like I said, we've got 36 students enrolled this year, and that's probably been our biggest enrollment number, which might not sound like a whole lot to some, but it is a lot for us. We started out with 5 students back in 2017. So the growth that we've seen is just tremendous, and we have such a need here in Knoxville and in other surrounding counties as well. And it's important to know, like with us, like it's not just the kids who have autism. It's autism, it's different types of learning abilities. It could be a developmental delay, it could be an intellectual disability, it could be ED, all kinds of different types of developmental abilities. And it's important for us to recognize that every learner learns differently. Yeah. So our approach is very individualized, much like with coaching. It's a very individualized approach. So our teachers are, when I say phenomenal, they are truly phenomenal, and I thank Jesus for them every day, because they are truly like the heartbeat of why we do what we do. We couldn't do it without them. Yeah. Because they have such a task at hand. Say there's a classroom, I'll use my son's classroom. They have 10 students, they have a teacher, and they have a teacher's aide in there as well. And they work so beautifully together. But that teacher isn't just teaching 10 students one lesson. Right. She's teaching those 10 students probably 3 or 4 different lessons just for one subject. Yeah. And not only that, she's taking that lesson and then she's individualizing it to how they are learning. So that approach may be a hands-on approach. They may have an augmentative communication device, to AAC, for their modality of speech or communication, because maybe they're non-speaking. So there's so many different aspects that goes into actually fully supporting the child, their education, and then also supporting the other half of it, the behavioral side of it, helping on the social emotional portion of it, because a lot of our kids have a hard time self-regulating. So it's important for us to teach them different strategies on how to ask for help. What can I do in a certain situation situation, and all of those things like is just one component of our day.
Yeah.
And all of those things can take place before 9 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
So, you know, you think about that, and then you're like, okay, you take that and then you times it by 36, and then you're like, oh wow, that's a whole lot.
Yeah.
So we just have such a blessing to be able to serve our community, and to be able to serve our students and our families. So, like, for anyone who's actually interested in it, they can send an email. They can send it straight to me. That would be perfectly fine. It's Brittany Burris at knoxpureacademy.org. You can find me on Facebook as well. Shoot me a message. That's perfectly fine. Or you can get on our Facebook page, which is Pure Academy, and that can give you all kinds of different information as well. But we're so blessed to be able to serve. And for the new school year coming up, 24-25, if you're interested, then go ahead and send me an email, submit your application, and we can get that enrollment process started for that. So
Absolutely.
we're excited.
I will link everything here, and your staff is phenomenal. I mean, they do a great job. I coach somebody else that works at Peer, so you guys do a fantastic job just making sure that you're taking care of yourself so that you can take care of others.
Yes.
And I know a couple of those students, and I just see them shine, so you guys are doing just a great work over there. So if anybody is interested in anything like that, I will link it in the show notes so that you can connect with Brittany.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Brittany. This was fun. You're doing a fantastic job. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I know that it will impact other people, and you're doing just a fantastic job.
Thank you. Appreciate all that you do and for just supporting us.
All right. Well, I will talk to you soon. Thanks, everybody, for joining
All right.
and have a fantastic day.